get together again. There'll be more details on that as we get a little closer. Let's see. Well, okay, our program tonight, Daron mentioned, is going to be on Parks on the Air, which is a good segue into our next Saturday Parks on the Air. We've feared for a long time that we'd come up without a program like we usually have, with a live presenter, and it takes a lot of hard work and to come up with that, but we finally hit the dead end, and we'll keep working on it. But Jeff has tried very vigorously to come up with something, but we knew eventually we would miss. So that's going to be that's why we have stuff stored away, so to speak. So we have good stuff there. And if you'd mute your mic, whoever's making a racket there, we'd appreciate it. Okay, let's see, what's my last? Okay, segueing into the DRC Saturday, Kevin, our vice president, is like Jerome said, our Mark Thomas that was going to kind of head this up had a family emergency, and so he will not be available. So thanks to Kevin for jumping in, and Kevin, you can tell us who else. I know, I think Alex and whoever else you'd like to give credit to there. Appreciate that. Somebody's got FT8 on, so let's get rid of that. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think that's all I'm blabbering about. I will turn it over to Kevin, let him talk about our DRC Saturday coming up, and then Kevin, you can just pass it on back to Daron, I guess, and he'll start the presentation. And like I say, we'll have the drawing at the end. I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
I think you're muted,
Kevin. I don't hear you. Don't hear you.
Still can't hear you, Kevin.
Still don't hear you.
Nothing yet.
Okay, hang on here a second.
There
we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kevin, and I'm K0KPS. Daron, if you have a chance, can you pull up the email that was sent yesterday with the map on the POTA site?
Yeah,
so we are going to activate Bar Lake State Park, which in the POTA realm is US 1209. And for the directions out there, you take I-76, and people that have activated before said it's easier to get off at Bromley Lane, go east to Piccadilly Road, and then from Piccadilly Road, come back south. There's a map in the bottom of that email, Daron, for the attachment. So as you come south on Piccadilly Road from, I think it's 152nd, you want to turn in on 128th going west, which is the main park entrance. And Daron, there's a greenhouse just off the Piccadilly Road that's an icon. You can see it in the upper corner there. That's where the park headquarters is. So if you don't have your Colorado registration, that has the park pass already on it, there is a $10 entrance fee, I believe. And then from there, you'll take the road straight west towards the lake. And we have 3 sites. The one in yellow circle is at the Nature Center. And depending on the crowds for the people, it's got a large parking lot. We are planning on activating on the north edge. There's a lot of picnic tables, some large trees for some shade. and there's restrooms also at that site. Just above that yellow circle is another site, which is the Equestrian Center, which would be our last choice. There's some tree lines along the east side of that road that provides a lot of shade in the morning, and there's plenty of parking there. The downfall is there's no restroom other than walking, back over towards the nature center. And then our second choice is the two sites above the yellow circle, which has got a small parking lot. And I think it's got about 10 or 12 parking spaces, but there are picnic tables and there's one of the outhouse type restrooms there. So carrying the equipment would be a short little, maybe 50-foot, walk from that parking lot there. So it's hard to predict how many people are going to show up and how big of a parking lot we need, to pull this off. So Alex, Kilo Sierra Zero Echo, is going to be helping me out, set up. We are planning on starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. Alex and I will probably be there a little bit earlier, securing our site. So if you look for the vehicles with all the porcupine antennas on there, you're probably going to be pretty close to where we're at. So it's going to be in one of those three sites. And if you get down to the end where the nature center is and you don't see us there, it's going to be at one of the two that you've already passed. If you're coming out, make sure you bring some bug spray, because apparently there are some mosquitoes in some of the spots. It's hard to predict, what the warm weather did for the mosquitoes. And if you've got a small folding chair, if we have too many people that overwhelm the picnic tables, then you could have a chair also out there. We are looking at activating, either 2 or 3 radios. So we look forward to seeing you all come on out on Saturday, this Saturday, the 20th, and it's at 9 o'clock. Do we have any questions from any of the people that are attending this meeting? Let me know. I guess hearing none. Jerry, do you have any final comments?
No, I don't think so. Wished I could be there, but we're not. We're going to be gone, as you know. So good luck. I think they're fun events. So please come out and participate.
And if you're a technician, since we do have extras on site, you'll be able to use any of the bands for the POTA activation. And if you've never been on the air, it's also another good time to come on out. I know I had a contact from one of our potential club members that he's never been on the air despite being an extra. And if that's one of you that's kind of wants to see what kind of equipment we need, come on out. It's a good opportunity to network with other hams and find out all about Parks on the Air. So unless there's any other questions, Jerome, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And I'll say 73 and let's enjoy the presentation.
I have a question. Is it handicapped accessible?
From what I gather, the areas are flat and there are some sidewalks. Are you talking wheelchair, or are you talking a walker, or just unsteady on your feet?
I've got a bad back, had an accident, and I use a scooter to get around places. So I just want to make sure it's flattish so that I can get myself around.
As far as I understand from looking at the map, it does look like it is a flat area. There's no hills. If we're at the nature center, I think there are some sidewalks, that go into some of the picnic tables. And the first site as you come by with the 10 parking spaces, this is kind of the similar area. So I think you should be okay there.
Okay. It's I just had a bad fall at work a couple of years ago, and it's really screwed my back up. Walking long distances or any kind of thing, it's hard for me.
Well, being a paramedic and a fireman, I have a poor back also, from carrying everybody, so I can certainly relate to that one. So
I was a
look
nurse.
forward to seeing you, Alan.
Yeah. Oh, you'll be seeing me. I definitely want to get active in the club and learn as much as I can. I'm one of those people. I've got my extra license, but I've never been on the air because I'm one of these things. I first take all the tests I got to take, so there's no restrictions. And when I was in the thing of just test taking, I just started taking them all, and this way I know that I can do a lot more without having any restrictions.
Well, that sounds good. So come on out and we'll look
I
forward
will
to
be.
you and get you on the air.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you,
Thanks.
Kevin. Yeah, of course. So my name is Drone K9VBR. I have the moderator account on this stream, so if anything happens, I will try to take administrative actions. This is a recorded video, 5 tips for successful Parks on the Air activation from the 2024 ARRL National Convention, presented by Michael Martins, KB9VBR. You may be aware of his call sign. So this is about 40 minutes or so, and then there's a little bit of a Q&A at the end we may skip, but if anybody has questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat, but we'll get this playing here and going.
My name is Michael Martins, KB9VBR. I've been a ham for 25 years, and I'm I don't know if I should say this, but today I joined the Quarter Century Wireless Association. So, so I'm kind of excited. And I'm here today to talk about the 5 steps for what I feel like the 5 steps are for POTA, or Parks on the Air success. So just to kind of get a feeling for the room here, how many people are involved in the Parks on the Air program? Come on, yeah, just about everybody. How many here actively hunt? You know, you're the, okay? And then how many are the ones that go out into the field and are the activators? All right, that looks like about a 60-40 split, 70-30 split. That's good. So hopefully this presentation today will get more of you hunters to decide to go out and be an activator. And the activators, you know, maybe think about, you know, how you're doing things. Maybe, you know, maybe I've got 1 or 2 things that I do that you've never thought about. Maybe you've got something that you do that I've never thought about, which is great because we'll have plenty of time for questions and answer and sharing stuff, because I do not have a real long presentation. I'm not that death by PowerPoint kind of person. So I just want to keep it light, keep it lively, and I'm just want to really just kind of share, you know, what I like to do is my strategy for Parks on the Air. And I think number 1 is before you begin, you got to know your goal, your objectives. Your goals are going to have to drive your approach to your activation. And you know, the goals can be simple, they can be a little more complex, they can be targeted. Most of all, they're kind of personal, because POTA, Parks on the Air, is not a contest. The only person you are contesting or running or, you know, fighting against is yourself. That's the only person. So, you know, you're going to want to set goals. You want to achieve those goals. You kind of want to get to the next step. You know, what's your goal? Make 10 contacts, make 100 contacts, operate on, you know, however many bands, you know, use, you know, however many different modes. Try a new antenna, try a new park, add a new park to your list. Maybe try QRP or something like that. So before I head out to the park, that's the first thing I kind of establish. You know, I say, well, you know, I'm going to go to this such and such a park today, and these are my, you know, this is what I really want to do. So I have that sort of a plan in mind, and having an objective in mind, you know, then we can that helps us sort of move through the 5 steps. So, and it's step number 1. And actually, the 5 steps. I'll just read them off here. I should have made a slide. Location, equipment, setup, logging, and then finally your reporting at the end. So step number 1, location. You know, as they say in the business world, it's all about location, location, location. Park entities, you know, they're going to vary in size and shape. They're going to be as small as a single block. They're going to be large as thousands of acres. And if you're familiar with the POTA spot, the Parks on the Year map and those map pins, you know, sometimes they're in a very defined area. Sometimes they're just helter-skelter in the park, especially if it's a very large park with thousands of acres. The mapping representative may not know the best spot to locate is, and that's fine because you don't have to go to where that pinpoint is in order to activate. You can activate anywhere, really within the park boundaries. So get inside the gate. Find a nice parking spot, you know, maybe if you're spending the weekend, you know, the campground. Here's a typical location that I kind of like. Parking lot on the edge of a state wildlife area. You know, it's just find that spot where you can set up. Park boundaries, they can be a little bit nebulous sometimes. You may not know exactly where state or federal land ends and private property begins, and that can be a little bit of a problem. Fortunate thing is, there's a lot of times the entities, the state entities, the national, the federal government, they do have maps with decent boundaries on them, so you can kind of see, you can find where those parking areas are, those places to go in are. Usually a good sign is, you know, if you see a sign or something else, that means, yeah, I'm on state property. That's probably a good place to go. What I really like to do to find good locations is Google Maps satellite imagery. Because after if I've looked at say like the park maps, you know, what the government puts out, I'll try to mesh those up with a satellite photo so I can, before I drive out there, I've got a really good idea of what the parking area looks like. Is it accessible? Is it a pull-off on the side of the road? Can you actually have more than 2 cars there? Are there trees? You know, or is it an open field? And that's all stuff that's really kind of, you know, that's if you want a successful activation, that's really kind of important. So, you know, spending 5 minutes with a satellite map to sort of see those spots and get an idea of the lay of the land even before you go there will help drive the rest of your activation planning. The second thing I do, the second map I will often pull up, and this is a park, you know, if it's a park that I haven't been to before, is I'll look at the map for my wireless carrier. You know, what's the cell phone coverage at this map? I don't want to be surprised when I get there and find out, you know, I can't spot myself. I know a lot of people like to use the apps on their phones for spotting, or not for spotting, for logging. Some of them, you know, might require a data connection, and if you get there and you find out there's no data, you know, that might be a challenge. So a lot of times I'll pull up my wireless carrier map and I'll see, you know, is it 5G? Is it LTE? Is it something, you know, passenger pigeon or something like that? And it helps me, you know, sort of understand that, you know, what I should expect for data connections. Now, one thing with the maps, to be sure, is that a lot of times they may not, you know, when they plot those maps, it's just a grade B plot that they do, you know, based on what the antennas and the transmitters at the cell site are doing. It may not take into account foliage, so your cell phone coverage in the summer months might be totally different than your cell phone coverage in the winter months, and just be aware of that. You know, you go there in November and it's beautiful. You get there in June and no park, so you know, nothing at all. So to recap, before I leave for a park, I'm going to know my park hours, admission fees, you know, if I got to pay to get in, if I've got to pass, things like that. Special rules and prohibitions. No wires in the trees. If I'm from Wisconsin, they're a little bit more easygoing. I know states like Minnesota and Michigan, they don't like you to hang lines from a lot of trees. so you try to avoid that. You should really know that. If you're going to visit a national wildlife refuge, know that they become quite strict on what they want you, how they want you to utilize those refuges, because their first mission is for the protection of the species that are inside that refuge. So oftentimes, if you're going to go to a wildlife refuge, you'll want a system that is very small, very compact footprint. Maybe a ham stick on the roof of the car, an ATS 120 on the back of your vehicle. Is so that you are completely self-contained and not taking up a lot of space. So really, that's be considerate of that. Know that before you're going into those kind of places. Rough locations where you want to activate, like I said, looking at the maps. I'm seeing where the parking areas are. If I can find a boat landing, I like boat landings because there's always nice big parking spaces at boat landings. Cell phone coverage, things like that. So okay, so I picked my park. I kind of know where I want to go. Next up is equipment. So what am I going to do for equipment? If we're out camping, it's my favorite radio, the FT891, battery, the computer, whatever types of things to go there. In planning, your activation, choose equipment that you're comfortable with. It doesn't have to be the same thing I use. It doesn't have to be the same thing somebody else uses. Know how to set up and tear down your gear efficiently. If your antenna system requires tuning or adjusting it, if you're using a base-loaded coil like those Wolf River coils, things like that in the field, know how to do that expediently, so you're not you get there, you set up, and then you spend a half hour getting frustrated because you can't get a good tune on that coil. And really, talking about equipment, there's really no right or wrong radio or antenna to use. There's so many choices available. I know, you walk through the show here today, and how many dozens of antennas, how many scores of radios do we see? It gets challenging and frustrating, and don't fall into the trap that there's just one specific way you have to do things, because there isn't. What might be right for me might be totally different for anybody else in this room, and that's fine. It's you just got to try, work with what you have, what you know, and just kind of go from there. If you have an equipment failure, how are you going to recover in the field? I know a lot of people say that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. I kind of subscribe to that practice to a bit, but I'm not going to carry 2 transceivers into the field. I might have a spare battery with me. I'll certainly have 2 power cables with me. I'll certainly have 2 pieces of coax with me and maybe a spare antenna. But there's things where, when you look at your equipment setup, what you're going to carry, there's things that that make sense to have duplicates, and there's others that, can I afford to bring 2 transceivers with me, if you know what I mean. Keep a checklist of all of your gear. That helps me immensely in loadout and making sure I have everything. You're not going to want to miss a critical piece of gear, like a dead battery. Like an antenna. I'm setting up I'm down at Cedar Creek State Park this week. The antenna I was intending to use, for some strange reason, did not get back into my antenna box, so I had to use my spare antenna. But we're still on the air, just not the way I was expecting. In selecting your equipment, think about, these are the things you should think about in your equipment choices. Topography of the park, trees, open spaces. Are you on a hill? Are you deep in a valley? That might make a difference. Your solar or band conditions. We're on the peak of the solar cycle right now. If there's a geomagnetic storm and it's causing a lot of noise on the bands, you might think, that might influence which mode or which band you're going to operate, and then that might also influence maybe which antenna you're going to pick. There was a big geostorm yesterday, or last week Saturday at that rate. You know, QRP with the magnetic loop antenna would not be my first choice last week. But if the bands are quiet and it looks like, you know, those upper bands are really starting to cook, you know, then I'd love to go that route. Like I said, your bands most operate. And then finally, QRP or QRO, full power. And when we, in the POTA world, when we talk about QRO, we're not talking about 1,000 watts unless you really want to, you know, carry that amplifier out there with you. 100 watts, you know, barefoot. I like to run 50 watts myself. I find that to be a nice some kind of trade-off between output power and battery life. But yeah, that's another choice to make, you know, in your equipment setup. So next up, the physical setup at the location, and this is a this is a more urban spot that I ran into last summer. And looking at that, can you think of if you got to a parking lot like that, how would you kind of approach things? You know, there's trees, but you know, a wire antenna is not going to get up into those trees because you're gonna impact other people. This is a trailhead. We were at a state trail, so. There's a lot of people walking around. There might be more urban noise. What I ended up doing, I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, there's the nose of my car. I kind of backed into the spot, so I had a protected area where I could just work off the back end of the car. Behind me, there was about a 3-foot piece of flat ground. I was able to kind of squeeze in my vertical quarter wave, you know, that 17-foot whip. And the window screen ground plane there, and just in that cramped little spot there, and we were there for about an hour, got about 40, 50 contacts. It was a nice morning. We had to go off and do a luncheon thing. We were visiting family in Minnesota, so it was a good time. So where are you going to set up? Are there going to be public things to think about? Are there going to be public interactions? Do you want public interactions? I know some people really, you know, they like to set up the tables and the tents and the banners, and that's fine. Be an ambassador to the amateur radio hobby. I love that. You know, go out and do that. That's great. That's not my style. I tend to be a little bit more nondescript. I'll try to find back corners, you know, of the parking areas, just a little bit out of the way. That's the way I kind of like to do things. So I'm looking, you know, I'll drive around the parking lot, see, you know, where can we just kind of back the car in and be, you know, it's a little unobtrusive, out of the way. How are you going to set up your station? Do you require trees or other supports? Think about that. Picnic tables, is there a place to sit around, you know, or are you going to have to sit on the ground or the back of the car? All valid setup types of questions. So, first things I check, traffic paths and footprints. We were out last summer at a park. It was the 4th of July weekend. We were at the beach. It was a beautiful day. We got there early, and I had a nice picnic table. As people started to come in to this little Northwoods lake, they started, I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, invariably they're going to walk across the coax. They're going to walk, you know, around the antenna and all that. And it's like, you know, can't you see? You know, don't you see this, you know, big thing here? No, they don't. So it was amazing how people, you know, I stayed away from the concrete sidewalks, you know, kept out of the way, but evidently that doesn't matter at a lot of places. Picnic tables, places to sit, you know, fine. Is it shaded? Restrooms, very important. Are there restrooms available? And that's a sign of a great park for me is that. And then finally, you might not think about this, but RF noisemakers. You know, what's the noise floor like out at the location? There's a park by us that I like to go to. Beautiful parking lot, but it's right next to a small hydroelectric dam. So terrible noise. About a quarter mile away, there's a boat landing, and I usually go to that boat landing, which is, Not as pretty, but still a lot quieter. And then finally, now we're getting to the actual activation. And I'm not going to call it activate, I'm going to call it logging, because that's the primary thing of what we're doing when we're on the air. And then we've got my lovely wife Christine in the background there. She's got her loom. I think she's got her loom somewhere here in the building, if you could spot her. So it's that's what we do when we're on the air. You know, like I said, I label this logging, but this is the actual activation part of the activity. You know, logging's that crucial element. It's your activation. You run it the way you want to. Go as fast or as slow as you want. If you want to be conversational, I encourage you to be conversational. People like, you know, I know a lot of hunters enjoy that. We were talking last night around the campfire, and one guy said, you know, I really haven't gotten into POTA much lately because people just like to go boom, 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 and they don't want to sit down and do a conversation. So it's like, you know, I get that. It's fun. It's fun. I love chatting with people, and if somebody asks me a question over the air, I'm going to stop and I'm going to talk, and we're going to, you know, and that makes the whole thing a lot more memorable. And don't worry, you know, you develop your own style. Don't worry about making mistakes over the air. Nobody's really gonna care. You know, you're in control of that situation. Now, as we talk about logging, you know, there's a lot of different methods. Pen and paper is probably, you know, the most recognizable, most familiar method for a lot of people. That works. There's a lot of computer applications out there. If you're a Windows person, a Mac person, there's hammers. If you like the phone, there's this new YOLO, POTA YOLO log. I heard there's another logging program that's coming out for wireless devices. So, you know, if you're an N3 FJP person, you can get AC Log has got a POTA template now. So there's a lot of options. Pick one that you feel familiar with. I like hammers on the Windows PC. It's comfortable. I can read the little screen fine, so that works for me. The only pieces of information you really need for activation: date, time, call sign, your park number if it's a park-to-park type of thing. You know, to collect that information. You really don't even need You don't really even need to collect the other person's park number. Because if you upload the log and leave the park information blank, when the other person uploads their log, POTA will automatically combine the two and give you the park-to-park credit. So the POTA logging upload system is just it's absolute magic. Sometimes they've really done a beautiful job at that. Challenging band conditions. You know, how are we going to deal with that? Big fades up and down. You know, don't let that noise, bands close, bands open, don't let that stop you. You know, knowing how the bands, I really did not understand propagation. And I've been a ham for, like I said, I've been a ham for 25 years. I have not really understood propagation until I started going out on a regular basis in a wide variety of solar conditions and got on the air, and then it really started to click and make sense for me. And after doing that a few times, then you look at the numbers, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So that as you kind of grow into that, then you could say it doesn't, the solar report doesn't seem so scary at all. You say, no, I get it, you know, if the A is going to be this and the K is going to be that, I should think about working in this sort of way. I should maybe concentrate on these bands and go forth that way. So as I run my activation, I'm going to, if I've got a cell connection, the first thing I'll do is I'll check the POTA spotting page before I begin, because I'm going to want to see who else is on. Basically what I'm doing is I'm looking for an open frequency, because I don't want to, you know, listening on the band, and you may not hear, especially on the upper band, you may not hear an activation going on the same frequency, but you know, if I can avoid setting up on a frequency where somebody else is activating, I'm going to try to do that the best I can. Listen first, listen some more, listen a little bit more. You know, is this frequency in use? Is this frequency in use? Sometimes somebody will come back. that's cool, I'll move. Avoid common busy frequencies. This is another thing you kind of learn from experience. Nets, the sideband window, the AM windows, those weird interlopers on 20 and 40 meters. You know the frequencies I'm talking about. I was doing an activation. I was switched to 40 meters. So I was like at 7190 or something. I was on the bottom part of the general portion of the 40-meter band. I asked us the frequency in use. Guy comes back and says, "Well, we're going to have a net in about 20 minutes. You're welcome to join us." And I says, "Cool. Can I get like 5 or 6 contacts before your net?" "Sure, yeah, go ahead." So yeah, I ran for 10, 15 minutes, and they were cool about it. I was cool about it. They did their net, and it was a beautiful day. So nets don't have to be the enemy. Just consider that. And then, like I said, operate in the air in a consistent manner. I know for a lot of new activators, the threat of a pileup really kind of scares them. And I think the best way to handle pileups is just to be consistent in your operating style. Try to generate a pattern or a rhythm and then people kind of will fall into that trance, and that will help manage your pileup in a better manner. Finally, we're at the end of the line. We did our activation, and we're ready to tear down, pack up, go home, and submit our logs. But there's a few more things we got to do. Reporting, and reporting is not. It doesn't just mean submitting your log to the Parks on the Air organization, the POTA app page. It's more than that. I like to take pictures. I take a lot of pictures. I shoot video too. You don't have to shoot video, but you can certainly take a few pictures. I'll take pictures of the park. I'll take pictures of the parking area. I'll take pictures of my antenna setup, because that's going to help me. If I decide to go back to this location, how things were set up. Did I like how they were set up? And it just kind of reminds me, maybe I'm going to try something different, and that's what I'll be able to, and then those pictures will remind me, oh yeah, there's trees over there, that might work. Oh, that's a busy spot over there, might not want to be over there. So they're good in the future planning. Keep a logbook. I got a little journal that a lot of times I'll write down information like, location, grid square, the modes, the bands I operated on, the number of contacts, the solar conditions, how I felt the activation went. Because there again, that just kind of helps me in sort of how I want to do things in the future. And then after the action is important, upload your logs in a timely manner. Used to be when Parks on the Air was young, we'd have to email to our logs to the log coordinator, and they would upload them, and it would take days, maybe weeks to get those logs uploaded. Now that you can self-upload, everybody wants that instant gratification. If you can get them uploaded within 24 hours or so, yeah, that's fine. So I know a lot of my logs for this week, they're not going to get, they may not get uploaded until I get home. So that's okay. Finally, check over your equipment. Repair, replace things as needed. Like we said, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If you want to try to avoid that, make sure you've always got charged batteries, your cables are in good condition. You've got all of your pieces, parts inventoried and ready for the next activations. So, after action. This is my after action report. Take pictures. Check my logs before uploading. There's a nice little software program for the PCs called ADIF Master. It's like a spreadsheet sort of thing. You can look at your log and see, make sure that all of the components are there, that there's no errors or something like that. That'll cause a record to get thrown out. And then finally, just journal my activity for future reference so that I've got a memory of what I've done at that park and move on to the next one. So that ends my formal presentation, and I think, oh man, we got like at least 20 minutes for questions.
All right, this is Daron, K9VBR. Again, we can watch maybe a little bit of Q&A. If somebody does have questions, if people do have answers, let us know. But this was a recording, again, from Michael Martin's KB9VBR. I definitely learned quite a few bits of information, so if anybody has anything, go ahead. definitely some good takeaways for this weekend. So I'll try to hopefully attend that, and yeah, a lot of good information there. So this is Daron, K1DBC. I don't know if anybody has any questions or follow-ups on that. I have not participated in any parks on the air myself, but yeah, as mentioned, there's a lot of options out there.
Okay, Jerome, thanks. Appreciate you queuing that thing up. Hopefully next month we'll come up with more in-person program like we usually have. I'll ask everybody, it's not an easy thing to come up with good quality programs. So we've got a lot of members. You've got a lot of people and acquaintances and situations that you run across. So keep that stuff in mind if you come across something you think would be good program material. We'll get back to me or to Jeff or to any of the board members and help us out. We need it. I think Jeff put the drawing in the chat. So where are we at on that one, Jeff?
2 entries so far.
Well, we can do better than that, guys. You do have to be a member, and but we surely got more than 2 members, so I'll give you just a minute. Any questions for me or anything about the club we can quickly answer, and we'll do the drawing and set you free here. We appreciate checking in with us this evening. Anything change there, John?
Sorry, go ahead.
Nope, no change. Still sitting at 2.
Well, you got a pretty good chance. Pretty good chance. So
It'll be
anybody
interesting
trying
to see what happens when I randomize 2.
Yeah, well, better than 1, I guess. Okay, well, nobody else trying to get in, so we'll do it, I guess.
All right, so I tipped the cup and Bob Messenbrink, NB0BN, came up as a winner this time.
ND0. Yeah,
Congrats, Bob.
That's me.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Listen, break. Let me get your. Kathy will. She'll probably get this out of here tomorrow. So congrats, Bob. Yeah, I know it was a tough race there. But,
Yeah, I thought my odds were better than
yeah.
usual, for sure. Thanks.
You came in. You came in good. All right. If there's nothing further, we'll conclude. And thanks, to Drone, for doing all the computer stuff there, and Jeff. And good evening, everybody.
Thank you all. Take care, Alan. We'll see you soon.